morning, everyone. Hi, I'm in my bathrobe. I need more coffee. I will be drinking my coffee out of here. So I have some interesting news. I actually had an appointment with my nurse practitioner this morning, and I had gotten Genesight testing done. So this was something that has been around for, I guess, a few years now. And they take a swab and they test your genetics to see what kind of drug interactions that you may have. And they use this a lot for mental health stuff. So for antidepressants, because a lot of people have good um, have not so good outcomes on antidepressants or various drugs. And so this gives them more information about your own genetic predisposition towards certain drugs. So mine actually came out fairly normal. So I don't have any major red flags or any major drug interactions. And currently, I'm really not on anything other than my Ritalin that I take for my ADHD, which helps. And so I had been on a little bit of lithium. We'd been playing around with it because my mood had been so bad. And then when I got diagnosed with diabetes, that's another conversation. I kind of lit a fire under my bum to go back to doing keto and a low carb diet. And I'm actually noticing it's helped. And so I don't take metformin anymore and I don't take lithium. I've been slowly reworking into my vitamins. So taking the D3, which is really critical, get your D3 levels checked. Tell your doctor you want to get your D3 levels checked, especially if you're feeling low energy or you're having a low mood. They should be able to do it for you. And then from there, you can see how low you are deficient. Most people in the Northern Hemisphere are deficient in D3, and that has repercussions with our health. So it is really critical. And it's starting to get talked about a little bit more in health circles. Big difference. And make sure, if you need to take K with it because that helps metabolize D3, etc. Anyway, so I have noticed that my mood has improved. My energy has improved. I ate some bad things yesterday and with some coffee, and I was like, it was horrible. It was really bad. I was like, whoa. So I'm gonna stay with the low carb keto thing because I feel like it's helping, even though I'm still having a little bit of anxiety and depression. Somewhat, it's not what it was even 6 months ago. So, and life still is crappy. It's like things around me, the world around me is still very stressful. And I'm trying to understand how my body is reacting to stress, because that is a big thing for me. So I have cortisol dysregulation in that I do the fight or flight goes into overdrive mode. And that's what drives a lot of my mood issues and a lot of my depression and a lot of my anxiety, as well as my ADHD issues. And that was a big puzzle piece for me. So there's still stuff I'm dealing with, but overall I'm actually better. But going back to the Genesight testing, there was one thing at the very end, and it was the one thing that they noticed was that my methylation gene, which is of course I don't have the thing up. Wait, let's see if I got it. It's called the MTHFR gene. And basically it's regarding folic acid, which is a B vitamin. And it basically showed up that I have a reduced folic acid conversion. So what this means, folic acid has a lot to do with mental health issues. So where's my cursor? Yeah. So going back a few years, I used to take a B complex because I had been dealing with a lot of chronic fatigue. And the B complex that I had been using was just off the shelf, didn't really think about it. It's B complex, normal run of the variety. And I noticed that it really wasn't helping much. And I had a plumber friend who would lecture me about how he had seen his fair share of vitamins that had been undigested in the body, in the sewer system. Lovely, I know, lovely image. But we hear a lot about how vitamins are worthless. It's just that they're not really effective, they can't do this or that. That's not true. Everybody really should get their vitamin levels looked at a little bit more. If you're dealing with that, treat it with diet and vitamins before you start putting on all these pharmaceuticals, right? But that's another question. So, with regards to the folate or the folic acid and B12 specifically, so what I learned, this other B complex wasn't really working for me, and it was like, okay, and I didn't really think about it. Fast forward, I started doing a little bit more research and found out something about B12 specifically, which not really clear how folic acid, I'm reading about folic acid and what it's considered, but for B12, that people do have an issue with metabolizing B12. There is, in most B complexes, B12 it's cyanocobalamin. I think that's how you pronounce it. B12, let me show me. Cyano, yeah. So it's cyanocobalamin. That is the form of B12 that is in most over the counter average B complexes. This is not the best form of B12 that people should be taking. They should actually be taking the methylcobalamin version because it is a more easily metabolized version of this key vitamin. That being said, another factor for some individuals, and this is where we're getting to this, is that they genetically do not produce something called intrinsic factor, which is, let me see if I'll just make sure I'm getting this correct. So intrinsic factor is a protein that helps your intestines absorb vitamin B12. And some people don't have this, or they've got, I guess, low levels of it, and it can affect you metabolizing and using B12. That's why you do see B12 sublingual or B12 shots, because it's going around your digestion system and you're getting it directly into your system. So you can get a sublingual version of B12 that can help. Getting the methylcobalamin version in your B complex vitamins, or B complex shot, which if you really, really like shots, they're painful. Actually, because I think they actually go into the muscle. I've had a couple, they're not fun. So the other, so found a, I found a really good supplement years ago that was a B complex, and it had with intrinsic factor. I'm like, great, wonderful. It wasn't cheap. It was about $20 or more to buy this supplement, and I took it for years. It worked like a charm. I really could tell a difference when I was taking this. It was something laboratories. I can't remember the name of the brand. Well, about a year or so ago, I was trying to get some more of it because they'd been out of it because of the pandemic. Totally screwed everything up. And I couldn't find it. And so I reached out to them and they said, yeah, we're not making it anymore. We took it off the market. I'm like, really? And I looked all over Amazon. I've looked all over the internet for a supplement, a B complex supplement that actually had intrinsic factor in it. I could buy intrinsic factor as a supplement separately, but that's more money. It's like, so this time round, so I've been doing without this B complex, which I really liked. And I just bought Jarrow brand B complex that had the methylcobalamin just to see that. And I think it's okay. But what was interesting about the Genesight thing, that it basically, the whole folic acid conversion, that has to do with it. You're not metabolizing these vitamin, this thing that you need in your body properly because of this. And she had recommended, and I can't remember what the name of it is, that's a supplement. And she hoped that my insurance company, but of course they don't cover it. Let me see if I can find it. And so it's a supplement that has this better version of it. So it can help with mood and stuff like that. So anyway, just generally speaking, I feel really validated that that came back. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and that affects, that's kind of causes that more organic variety of depression and mood disruption, because your body has this issue with it, right? Genetically, it's just the way I do. And it could have happened because of when I was born. My mother, could have happened in vitro. I don't know why. Like maybe she had this and was passed on. I don't know. I'm going to continue to do research about it. But my philosophy about supplements and drugs and all this other kind of stuff is that start out with the low hanging fruit. Start out with changing your diet. Obviously, kind of a no-brainer. But I will say about diet is that not all food is equal. And that even though everybody should really be having access to good quality, organic, healthy, fresh fruit and veg, etc., that the ground in which, and the organic label, that's a whole nother issue, because some things, it doesn't really matter. You're paying more for something that says organic on it. Sorry, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. You're paying more for the organic label. But it is really important to know where your food is being grown, because the mass farming industry, the soil that contains all the nutrients and micronutrients and everything in which you're growing your food, oftentimes is depleted. So you're not really getting a very nutrient dense food from the whole factory farming model, right? It's not really the best way you're going to be able to. We should be. I mean, if you have a garden, you can be making the best soil and have all these wonderful amendments and have it all rich and organic-y and nutrient dense in the food that you're growing, right? It's getting good sun, it's not getting overly pesticide, the whole 9 yards. But that isn't a reality for most people in the world, either because of prohibitive cost to these foods, which needs to be addressed, and also where they're grown and how they're grown. So it's not, you can get cheap quality you could go to the Dollar Tree and get a bag of frozen vegetables that's small, but the quality may not be as nutrient dense as, say, you're getting something out of your backyard in your own garden. The whole issue of frozen versus fresh, that's another factor. Ironically, a lot of frozen vegetables have a better nutrient quality to them than fresh, because of they're flash frozen at the time that they're picked. So there's a whole conversation there. Apologies. So sometimes you are going to have to supplement with vitamins. If you can, get your levels checked on some, not just iron, because they always check your iron. Women always get their iron checked because we menstruate and we lose a lot of iron in our blood, so they always check the iron levels. But there's a lot of other vitamins that can become depleted. And yes, B complex vitamins are generally water soluble, so but you can become deficient in them. D3 is a big one. That's a fat soluble vitamin, so you can put too much in your system and it won't get flushed out. So you do need to kind of watch your levels, but your doctor really should be going, hey, you're feeling tired, you're feeling, you're having sleep disruptions. They should be doing all of the basic things before they're writing a script from some big pharmaceutical company like Ambien. I mean, I've heard people say, oh, I can't sleep, I just want to get on some Ambien, instead of actually, oh, they might have a deficiency that might be causing some disruptions and things. People always go to those drugs, instead of actually looking how to change their diet or taking a supplement or whatever. And when I got my diabetes diagnosis, which is another conversation again, I've been on some diabetes groups and I'm really actually shocked, and I shouldn't be. But when I did keto several years ago, I was in that community, which is a very wide ranging kind of people of, are they doing it for weight loss? Are they doing it for bulking up? Are they doing it? What are they doing keto for? Are they doing it to lose weight? That kind of stuff. Are they doing it for health reasons? Are they doing it for whatever reasons they're doing it? And going back to that now and it reversed my pre-diabetic markers. I'll tell you that. Keto reversed my pre-diabetic markers. My doctor actually acknowledged this because I had my blood levels checked and she's like, oh, you're out of pre-diabetic range. Great, wonderful. And you've lost like 20 pounds. Great, keep doing whatever you're doing. And I told her, like, my mood's better too. But then, of course, the pandemic happened, among other things. And so it's been kind of a struggle to get, I kept saying, I got to get back on keto. I got to get back on keto, or low carb at least. And so the diabetes things kind of like punched me into gear. But I started out and I said, fine, I'll take the metformin, because I was really struggling. I was not feeling good. My mood was bad. I was I was like very shaky. I was very, just all over the place. I was just like, And so, but then when I started to get into gear with my diet, the metformin actually was interfering with, because I said, I'm eating really healthy and eating less sugar. And she's like, oh, well, metformin can actually mess with that. You might need to actually make sure you are getting sugar. And I'm like, well, okay, this is not what I want. So I took off the metformin and I said, let me just see if I can get back into a low carb, get the sugar out of my diet, eat healthier, that kind of stuff. And it's worked. It's working. Not perfect, not totally there, but of course, I'm 54. I still have stress in my life. I still am struggling here and there, and I'm still kind of playing around with food a little bit to see. I'm not in a full official strict keto, 20 carbs and less kind of mode, because I like certain things that have carbs. I like certain fruits. I like certain, but I'm more aware of what I'm taking in, the glycemic levels, how I feel. I currently do a blood fasting, blood glucose test. I can't speak today. Blood glucose test in the morning, but it's not hooked up via Bluetooth. I had to download some software and the software isn't working, and I can't really see like graphs and ups and downs, and I'm only doing my blood fasting in the morning, so I don't see that kind of trend over time with what I take into my body and how it's affecting my blood sugars, how I feel, that kind of stuff. So eventually I might like to look at getting a continuous blood glucose monitor, which is a little device they put in the back of your arm, which apparently does not hurt, but then it's hooked up to your phone or whatever, and you can actually get real-time information about when you eat or drink something. You'll be able to see it kind of in real time, like, oh yes, oh, I'm seeing how my blood sugar level is going up and how long it takes to come back down again. So how your body is handling insulin resistance, your blood sugars, that kind of stuff. And I would welcome that kind of information, because that gives me information about my own body. And I think that that's really, really empowering. And I think that our medical establishment, I was talking to a family member. I have Canadian citizenship. I'm a dual citizen. So I have a lot of family up in Canada. And so we always talk about, well, we don't always talk about, but the whole socialized medicine up in Canada versus the United States healthcare system. They're very different, and they both have their pluses and minuses to them. And this person was actually saying, I said, so do you take D3? And they're like, oh yeah. I said, so you get your D3 levels checked? She's like, oh, we don't do that up in Canada. And she said, I even asked my doctor if I could pay for a D3 level check. And he's like, well, we don't do that. Well, you do need to monitor your D3 levels. I mean, if you supplement, if you're up in the upper northern hemisphere areas, most people are probably deficient because of the sun levels, and there's a whole range of factors. You can even be deficient if you're living in the sunshine state of Florida, if you are going out and wearing a sun factor or sun protection factor 30 in your makeup or in your routine, because that's blocking the sun from getting into your system because it's absorbed by the skin. Or you could live in Florida and you'll never go and lay out on the beach. You could be inside all day long. Being in Florida doesn't mean anything. Like, oh yeah, people in Florida shouldn't. I'm like, well, but they do. And as well, as you get older, which a lot of people in Florida are a lot older, your body does not metabolize them. African American or African people don't tend to metabolize D3. Or they tend to be low in D3 as well. So there are genetic, factors. Like if you get older, your body doesn't do it as much. So you're going to have to supplement at some point. It's not just, yes, in the summer, I try to lay out for at least, I'm not a big sun person. I don't like to lay out and get a tan, and we've been so trained not to lay out and get a tan because we might get skin cancer, which is true. So we have to be very careful. But I try to go, okay, 20 minutes, I'm going to lay out, try and get as much of my body into the sun as possible. And doing that in the summer really can help keep your levels, because it's a fat soluble vitamin, to keep you going through the winter months, which are, can markedly reduce the amount of sun you're going to get, obviously. So supplementation still may be needed. So definitely look into that. But it's very unfortunate that there are some healthcare systems that are like, yeah, we're not going to pay for this. And I've heard that even some healthcare plans in the United States won't pay for this. I'm fortunate that mine does. I've gotten several, so I can see over time what my level's going up. But going back to the blood glucose, so it's a more expensive device, but I would like to be able to monitor it, because I am alone, my own advocate for my own health. And when I'm really seriously depressed or, yes, suicidal, I tend to not care about my health. That's another issue. And we can go, I don't really care about my health. I don't really want to take care of it. But then when I'm starting to feel better and I'm like, oh, wow, I do care about my health. Go figure. And your doctor is not necessary. If you do have a doctor that cares and is invested in your health outcomes, great, wonderful. But a lot of people don't have that. And you alone are the person who is going to have to advocate for your own health. And I'm on one of these diabetes groups. And I was talking about diet, and I said, I'm, changing my diet, and I'm really noticing improvement. And someone commented and they said, I wish my doctor had allowed me to try the dietary route before putting me on metformin or on drugs. And I was like, and I responded back and I said, you are the person that you are a sovereign being. Your doctor does not own your body. And this appeal to authority with doctors, well, my doctor said, my doctor, I'm like, you need to take ownership of this. Your doctor should be in partnership with you. Don't just go, well, my doctor knows more than I do. They went to medical school. I'm dumb. I don't know any of this stuff. Well, you should learn about it. Yes, some of the information might be hard to understand, but work at it. There is information. They want to dissuade you and say, oh, well, I found that. I mean, even my own doctor said, oh, be careful what you find on the internet. Don't look on the internet. And yes, there's a lot of bad information on the internet, but there's a lot of good information too. And while there's very ignorant people out on chat boards, there's a lot of very intelligent people out on chat boards. And it's a skill to be able to understand the information that's out there. But it's worth it. We can't constantly going, well, my doctor wouldn't let me. I'm like, what? Why would your doctor not let you explore the dietary route? I mean, granted, maybe they have other issues that made it a more immediate concern. But the fact that a doctor said, well, here, you need to be on this medication, when maybe they don't. Maybe they could have. And I'm really disappointed with nutritionists that are mainstream that just follow the government line about what is, thing. I am not impressed with the American Diabetes Association and the information that they put out. The information about diabetes and all that is just atrocious. The mainstream information is so conflicting, so confusing, so contradictory. And so it is really, really hard to really kind of get a grasp on that. But I am also very disappointed on how many people just go, well, my doctor said, my doctor didn't allow this, my doctor, and I can't get this drug because it's not covered, or I can't get this test because, this or that or whatever. And it's just like, this is this is what is really wrong with all our healthcare systems. And we need to be invested. And I understand that you may be in a socialized country and, I have friends, and generally speaking, I wish we had a universal healthcare system in the United States, because there are issues, and I think that people need to just be able to get to a doctor without going bankrupt, right? And have a lot of procedures done without having to worry about the cost. That's an issue. But I do understand that there are limits to certain national healthcare countries. I mean, I've talked to a friend in England, and she talks a lot about, well, it's not that easy. You can't just tell your doctor you're going to order this or that, or I can't just go in and get this or that. And I know that in these countries you can get additional insurance, but it is really concerning that you couldn't just go and pay for a special, vitamin level check, And I mean, this is another issue, larger issue that I have ranted about in my life before. But anyway, I just primarily wanted to report on the folate issue in my Genesight testing, and to really recommend, if you can get that may be helping, that could be very helpful to you. If you can get it, if your insurance company, I managed to meet my deductible, so it was paid for. So I was like, okay, good. I like having more information, and it was just very validating, because I had done my homework and it came back and it validated it. I was like, oh, okay, well, this would explain a lot. This explains this. So, right now the only thing I'm really taking is Ritalin. I'm only taking very low dose of Ritalin, like 5 milligrams. It helps. As you can see, my mood and energy is more focused. And I'm just working on my vitamins and my diet, and I feel a lot better. I'm still having a lot of stress and anxiety in my life. I still do get anxious. It's a different kind of anxiety. Um, I still tend to be somewhat cynical and pessimistic, but I'm kind of hardwired that way. But I just kind of wanted to report in and hope that this helps anybody kind of struggling with mental health issues. Again, when I started this channel out of the forest, I was feeling more empowered and felt really good because that was when I was doing full keto. And I was like, wow, I'm actually understanding. I was getting this information and I wanted to share it with other people because uh, I had to I had to work really, really hard to get this information. And so I feel that having open conversations about it and sharing it is really, really important. And I'm not going to do fancy graphic stuff. Um, Although I did learn about how to do PowerPoints and turn them into videos. So I could possibly do that. um, but I'm in for having a conversation. I think it's easier to have a conversation in my mind, and it may be easier for many people to get this kind of information this way. So anyway, I hope you all have a good weekend. I'm going to shut it down. It's a half hour. That's long enough. And I hope that helps you. So yeah, Genesight, look at your folate, see about intrinsic factor, B12, and mental health. And with that, have a good weekend. Bye. I'm going to try and end the stream. Bye.